My name is Heather. I'm 41 years old. I work as a preschool teacher. I live with my husband, Jeff, and my daughter, Emma, in a suburb not far from downtown. I met Jeff at a mixer that I was dragged to by a junior colleague to fill the numbers. At that time, I was in my late 30s, completely out of place at a matchmaking party dominated by people in their 20s, but Jeff, who was in his early 30s, also seemed equally uncomfortable. A strange sense of camaraderie developed between us, and we started talking, hitting it off quite well. And about a month into seeing each other, Jeff confessed that he was actually divorced and had a 9-year-old daughter, Emma. Moreover, Jeff said, Emma is friendly and a good girl, so I'm sure you'll get along well. Don't worry, I'd like us to date with the intention of getting married. I was happy at the thought of having a daughter and gladly accepted. However, Jeff's daughter, Emma, was openly hostile towards me from the first time I met her, which was not what I had been led to expect. Who is this lady? Dad, you're dating her? That's so lame. Hey, Emma. That's rude. Sorry, she doesn't usually say stuff like this. Oh well, it's okay. I don't mind. I was surprised by Emma's words, but thought she was just nervous. After all, it's understandable that a third grader would resist a stranger suddenly entering her family. I decided to slowly get closer to Emma. But no matter how many times we met before the marriage, Emma's attitude didn't change. Sometime later, Emma, Dad is going to marry Heather, so she's going to be your stepmom now. I was introduced again, but Emma said, I can't believe this old hag is my new stepmom. I'll be laughed at school. Everyone else's mom is young, pretty, and fashionable. I started to think it might be better to call off the remarriage given Emma's state, but Jeff just said, well, once the three of us start living together, she'll gradually get used to it. I wonder if this is really okay. Filled with doubts, I still went through with the marriage to Jeff. 3 years have passed since then, and Emma has become a 6th grader, but she still treats me coldly. In fact, as she grew older and became more articulate, she started to be more verbally abusive. Emma, you really need to fix your attitude. At first, Jeff would get angry at Emma, but as her attitude remained unchanged, he seemed to get fed up and began to ignore it. Moreover, Jeff started to be harsher with me, saying, if you and Emma can't get along after all this time, maybe it's your fault? You're a preschool teacher, but can't handle one child? And look, we've been married for 3 years, and we still don't have our own children. Maybe I should have remarried someone younger like Emma said. What's that supposed to mean? You're blaming me for everything, including Emma's issues and the child matter? I'm trying my best here. Without defending me from Emma's attacks, Jeff began to treat me harshly as well, and I felt myself growing weaker. One day, a mom friend stopped me. I saw your husband, Jeff, in the car with Susan. I just wondered if you knew about it. Susan is the mother of Emma's classmate and, I've heard, a single mom. Why would he be with someone like her? I was a bit suspicious, but I brushed it off to prevent any strange rumors. Susan mentioned she wanted to move soon, so I told her my husband works in real estate and could help. The mom friend seemed convinced and left, but my suspicions about Jeff remained. Something definitely feels off. It might be worth looking into. I decided to hire a private investigator to look into Jeff and Susan. 2 months later, Jeff and Emma went out, leaving me alone at home. Suddenly, I heard the front door being roughly opened and, frozen in shock, saw Jeff, Emma, and, surprisingly, Susan barging into the living room. Hey, a new mom is going to live here, so pack up all your stuff, clean up the house, and leave. What? Emma started spouting nonsense as soon as she walked in, leaving me bewildered. Hey Emma, you can't just spring this on her, she won't understand. Heather, sorry, but we're getting a divorce. Please leave this house. Yeah, there's no place for an old hag here anymore. Jeff and Emma were smirking at me, enjoying themselves. Meanwhile, Susan stood beside them, chin up, looking triumphant. Hello Heather, sorry for all this suddenness. But Emma is happy she's getting a younger, prettier mom. So, could you just quietly get the divorce? A happy family is the best, after all. You're just not fit for it. I had never really spoken to Susan, even at PTA meetings, but now she was blabbing proudly. Please pack your things and leave today. Look, I know this is shocking, but don't just stand there. Don't you have anything to say? I was speechless in front of the three of them barging in and saying whatever they wanted. However, as I had been wanting to divorce Jeff and Emma due to their unreasonable behavior, I saw this as a good opportunity and decided to go with it. All right. My response, like a child being given a chore, surprised them. Hey, are you really understanding this? You're getting a divorce and leaving this house? Yes, I understand. But just to confirm, I can pack up all my stuff, right? That's what we're saying. Forgot already, old lady? If Emma had been my real child, I would have scolded her harshly, but after all, she was nothing more than a stranger to me. I ignored the noise. Well, we're going to a spa resort for the night, so make sure you deal with your stuff and leave before we get back. See you. And with that, they left, laughing as if they had resolved some annoying issue. I found it odd that Susan, who also had a child in Emma's class, would leave her own kid behind, but I didn't have time to ponder. All right, not much time until tomorrow, gotta get moving. Left alone in the living room, I hurried to start packing. I wonder if they realize what they said about packing all my stuff. Actually, all the furniture and appliances in the house were bought by me. These were items I had purchased in preparation for our marriage, paid for in full. Because I had substantial savings from being single until I was 38. However, Jeff's payments for his half had become increasingly lax and eventually forgotten. Thus, I decided these were my personal belongings and had no hesitation in calling a junk removal service to take them away. TV, washing machine, fridge, and even the dresser, I emptied everything and disposed of them. Ah, what a different kind of exhaustion from playing with the kids all day. After completing this heavy work in one day, I decided to treat myself by staying at a luxury hotel near the station for a while. The next afternoon, relaxing in the hotel room, I received a call from Jeff. Hello? Answering the phone reluctantly, Jeff was almost shouting. Hey! The house is practically empty. And you just left the fridge empty and standing there. What were you thinking? What was I thinking? Well, all that stuff was bought by me. Forgot? You ended up not paying a dime. Oh, yeah, that was the case, but this is too much. Is bringing home a mistress and demanding a divorce any less excessive? Ugh, damn it. I wanted to hand him the divorce papers as soon as possible. When should I bring over the divorce papers? I was about to say, but Jeff, as if remembering something urgently, suddenly asked in a hurry. Wait, what about that? What? What do you mean by what? The dresser. The one with all the drawers. Where did you put that? I put it with the rest of the stuff, for the junk removal people to take away. Are you kidding me? I instinctively pulled the phone away from my ear. Jeff was yelling so loudly. Why are you so mad? I bought that dresser. Did you like it that much? He was so fixated on the dresser that I asked why he was so desperate. I had savings hidden in there. I was shocked by his answer, reminiscent of something from a bygone era. In the back of a drawer, there was money in an envelope. How did you not notice? Well, it was hidden, so it's not like I could have known. Sorry. I didn't think I was at fault, but I apologized anyway. That only made Jeff angrier. Which collection service did you use? Tell me. After I told him the company's name, Jeff hung up immediately. Probably he rushed to recover the money. Ah, I forgot to bring up the divorce papers. I realized after he hung up, but figured he'd contact me soon enough, so I waited. As expected, Jeff called me the next day. Come to the house right now. I had wanted to sign the divorce papers and return the house keys anyway, so I took everything necessary and headed to the house. As I entered the living room, the three of them were waiting, looking furious. "Hey, why did you throw everything away? There's no washing machine, no fridge, no microwave. We can't live here for a while." Emma was yapping at me as soon as we met. "Didn't Dad tell you anything? I bought all of that." "Emma, you said so yourself. Clean out all your stuff." Emma looked frustrated, and Susan jumped to her defense. "Hey! That's so immature, fighting with a child. That's why she doesn't like you. This child has been calling me an old hag since we first met. My attitude is irrelevant. Besides, once we decided to divorce, we're practically strangers. This wicked woman. Anyway, give back the money." "Money? Oh, you couldn't recover it?" Jeff apparently rushed to the junk collection site after our call but couldn't find the dresser among the massive piles of trash. "So, I want the $10,000 back, right here, right now." Losing $10,000 did sting, but I refused Jeff's demand. "No." "What do you mean no? You threw away my money. You have to pay me back." "It's not just no, it's more like I don't need to pay you back." "How can you think like that?" Jeff looked puzzled at my confident reply. I pulled out a document from my bag and thrust it at him. "I'm demanding alimony from you for the adultery and the verbal abuse that caused me mental distress." I had a lawyer draw up the documents right after I got to the hotel, paying a rush fee. The alimony amount was well over the $10,000 Jeff had hidden in the dresser. I'll deduct the $10,000 from the amount written here. So, I don't need to pay you. But you'll need to pay the rest of the amount. Jeff stared at the alimony pledge, and after understanding what it stated, he glared at me. "What a greedy woman. No wonder you were single till now. Say whatever you want. It doesn't affect me." Ignoring Jeff's words, I pulled out another document from my bag and handed it to Susan. "This is the compensation for emotional distress for you." "What?" She was apparently not expecting to be charged after having an affair. She snatched the documents from my hand. Wait, this is too much. I'm a single mother." As Susan cried out, Jeff, after reading her part of the settlement, glared at me as if he were looking at a demon. "Hey, do you not have a heart? Charging this amount to someone raising a child alone is too much." The worst. You really are a wicked witch." Jeff and Emma both attacked me at the same time. But they didn't know the truth. I slowly approached Susan and said, "Susan, you haven't told these two the real story, have you?" "Yikes!" Susan let out a squeak as if my face, called a wicked witch by Emma, truly terrified her. "What are you talking about? Don't threaten Susan." "Oh, sorry. But I thought it was known. Susan hasn't divorced her husband yet." "What? Wait a minute." Next to a panicking Susan, Jeff and Emma froze. "That's a lie, right? You said you were already divorced." "Ah, well, you're technically just separated. Isn't your child with your husband right now?" "Why do you know that?" "Is it true?" Yes, it's true." Unable to lie any longer, Susan quickly admitted. "That's why that kid hasn't been coming to school lately." Emma muttered, seeming to understand. "So what? We're about to get divorced anyway, just need to sign the papers." "There's no problem." Yeah, that's right. You're just trying to stress us out, it's pitiful." I couldn't bear to look at the two so sure of their victory and shook my head. "Unfortunately, there's a big problem. I've informed Susan's husband about your affair. Your wife is having an affair with my husband, so I demand compensation," I told him. "What?" Susan's husband was furious, of course, at both of you. He said he's going to demand compensation from you too. "What? You've caused so much trouble. Compensation for me too." Their expressions were a mix of anger and panic. "So, I've handed over the evidence of the affair to your husband as well. Jeff and Susan turned pale. Emma looked worriedly back and forth between the two. You two are going to have a hard time bearing the burden of two compensations.
You evil witch! Hey, Jeff, what are we going to do? I can't pay such a large sum.
Calm down, Susan. There must be some way. Does that mean I can't get new clothes? Can't go on vacation anymore? Emma complained about the potential hardship.
Shut up. That's the least of our worries right now.
Ignoring the panicked duo, I sighed. Sigh. Well, you have no choice but to work honestly and pay it off. We both have 12-year-old kids to support. With school and other expenses coming up, even if we earn money, it'll just disappear into these payments. That's your problem, not mine. It's what you deserve. What are we going to do? I only work part-time. And this is all because you boldly told her to get a divorce.
What? You're blaming me now? You were the one keeping quiet about still being married. If that hadn't happened, neither of us would be getting demanded for money by your husband. I thought it wasn't necessary to mention.
Their argument escalated into a loud quarrel, the screeching so intense that the walls of the house seemed to vibrate. Emma watched the two, looking like she was about to burst into tears at any moment. Desperate to end this hellish scene as quickly as possible, I clapped my hands to draw their attention. So, I need to revise the settlement amount for Jeff, so the lawyer will contact you again. I'll also send the divorce papers then. I expect both of you to sign quickly and send them back, Susan included. I grabbed my bag and headed for the entrance. As I attempted to leave, all three of them hurled insults at me.
You wicked woman! Old maid! Mean old witch!
I couldn't help but laugh out loud at their pitiful insults. Angered further by my laughter, they continued to berate me until the moment I closed the door. After returning to my parents' house, I quickly revised the documents and had them delivered to both through my lawyer. According to the lawyer, they were reluctant until the very end, but he eventually obtained their signatures. I was filled with gratitude for the lawyer handling the situation, as I had feared they might not sign. Since Jeff's part of the divorce papers was also included, I checked that his section was filled out and immediately submitted them to the city hall. Thus, Jeff and I officially ended our marriage of about 3 years. Relaxing at my parents' home for the first time in a while, I noticed my phone vibrating on the desk. The call was from Jeff. It was several weeks after the divorce. What could he possibly want? With a puzzled expression, I answered the phone. Hello, what do you want? It's been a long time. Have you been well? I shivered at his uncharacteristically considerate words. I rubbed my right arm with my free hand. Thanks to you. I've been feeling much better since the divorce, both physically and mentally. Is that so? Jeff seemed too deflated to retort against my sarcasm, his voice lacking strength. There were a few seconds of silence. Jeff was the one to break it. The reason I called today is because I have a favor to ask of you. A favor? Yeah, I'm getting impatient with his hesitation. Could you hurry up? I really didn't want to pick up your call. If you have something to say, go through the lawyer, remember? Sorry. The favor is, could you reduce the alimony you're demanding from Susan and me? I was stunned by his audacious request and pressed my temples with my hand. Wait, you thought I would just agree to that? It can't be helped. It's hard to talk to Susan's ex-husband about this. So he wanted to say it was unavoidable. How selfish of Jeff. Susan thought finally the three of us could live together after getting divorced from her husband. Wait a minute, what about the three of you? What happened to Susan's child? Oh, the kid went to live with her ex-husband. As if Emma had taken over a classmate's family. I felt dizzy at their selfishness, not considering the children's feelings at all. Jeff continued as if it didn't matter. I got fired from my job because somehow it got out I was using the company car to go out with Susan. That's wrongful termination, don't you think? Despite everything being his own fault, there was no sign of regret from Jeff. Is this man really in his late 30s? So, my income is zero right now, and Susan is just working a part-time job at the supermarket. We're really strapped for cash, barely managing our own lives. So please, can you reduce the amount? We really can't afford to pay it. I wonder what expression Jeff is making on the other end of the phone. I can't see it, but regardless of his face, my answer is the same. I refuse.
Why?
Jeff immediately retorts. Firstly, I dislike the idea that you're coming to me because it's difficult to talk to the other guy. And what about Susan? If she wants a reduction, she should be asking along with you. That would be the proper way to do it. That's true, but look, she's also having a tough time right now. It's not like she can handle any more stress. Not her problem? Oh, I see.
With that attitude, I definitely won't reduce anything. No, that's not what I mean. I messed up, just listen to me.
I silently listened to Jeff spilling more blunders. I don't know what's happening in this family or why they're having a hard time, but it's not my problem. Displeased with Jeff's attitude, I decided to let him in on a little secret. By the way, I was the one who reported your affair to your company.
What?
He paused after letting out that bewildered sound. Hello? Can you hear me? That explains it. What? He muttered quietly. That explains why suddenly my boss started checking the car's dashcam. You were the one who told them. Yes, that was me. A kind mom friend told me she saw you and Susan together in the car. So, I thought it was strange and hired a detective agency to investigate, and oh, did they find evidence of your affair. Photos of you taking Susan out in the company car during work hours, pretending to be attending to clients.
Damn it.
From the phone came the sound of fabric rubbing in a rhythmic pattern. Is he fidgeting? I took those photos, clearly time-stamped, to your workplace after our divorce and handed them to your boss. It was terrible because of you. I was told by higher-ups that I broke company rules and that my actions were malicious, which resulted in me getting fired. Plus, I was ostracized by everyone until I left. What a disaster. He doesn't seem to realize at all that he brought this upon himself. He seems determined to blame everything on me.
It's your fault I got fired.
I'm fed up with Jeff repeating the same excuses, and I respond more forcefully.
The real problem is that you were the one skipping work and having an affair. Even elementary school kids, if asked who's in the wrong between us, would say it's you.
Still, telling the company was a low blow. Is he trying to say that wasn't fair? But the moment I was kicked out of our home because of his affair, any notion of fair play was thrown out the window. He is still mumbling something, but then he suddenly goes silent. Could it be? He seems to have realized something. Did you, by any chance, spread the word among Emma's class parents that Susan and I were having an affair? I'm taken aback by the accusation of spreading rumors. I clarify with correction. No, that's not right. I only briefly explained the situation to that mom friend who tipped me off about your and Susan's affair, as a thank you for informing me.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. You did spread it around.
Well, now that I'm no longer Emma's mother, I have absolutely no dealings with that mom friend or anyone else from the school. I never thought about the aftermath of what I said. Because of that, Emma is being looked at with disdain in her class, seen as a thief who drove out Susan's child and took her mother. And Susan, she gets whispered about at every parent meeting. Don't you care at all? No, not really. My response must have sounded exceptionally cold-hearted to him. But honestly, I felt no pity for a child who had been verbally abusive to me from the start and the woman who took my husband, no matter what hardships they faced.
You're a heartless monster.
Like a character out of a comic book, he said in a heavy tone.
If anyone's the monster, it's you, lacking any moral compass. Shut up. Just reduce the alimony.
Jeff's demanding attitude hardly seemed like one asking for a favor, leaving me astounded, and finally, I retorted, "No."
If you're any kind of parent, show your child how to work decently and pay for your mistakes.
Fooling around. I hung up the phone while he was still shouting. He called back immediately, but I didn't answer, instead sending a text message, "I will not interact with you except through a lawyer. Do not call me again." After enduring days of being oppressed by Jeff and Emma during our marriage, ending this final battle left me feeling refreshed. I put the phone back on the desk and went to the kitchen to make some tea. After failing to get the alimony reduced, Jeff scrambled to find a job. Susan also tried to negotiate with her ex-husband for a reduction, but that failed too. Then Jeff, luckily, got employed by another real estate firm in the same industry, but the word got out quickly about his affair during business hours, making his new workplace uncomfortable. I wonder how long he'll last there. Surprisingly, Jeff seems to be sticking it out for now. Probably because resigning would mean no income and an inability to pay the alimony. Both burdened with their own and each other's alimony payments, and with children to care for, their family finances must be a disaster, but I was slightly impressed by his tenacity. As for Susan, she had to leave her part-time job at the local supermarket after rumors of the affair spread, thanks to the formidable network of mom friends. It seems the mom friends network is quite terrifying. Susan will likely struggle to find work locally again. She will be stigmatized as the woman who went after a child's father. Now that Jeff has become the sole breadwinner for that family, I wonder what will become of them. Whether they find happiness or face misfortune, it has nothing to do with me.
Thinking this, I quietly sipped my warm tea.
When I returned from my trip, I found my house had burned down. Though Dan was rescued from the second floor, he suffered severe burns all over his body. At the hospital we rushed to, Dan was wrapped in bandages all over his body, lying in bed. As I shed tears, Rachel lashed out at me with harsh words.
You must be secretly thrilled inside, right? You can rebuild the house with insurance, and you're safe and sound.
I couldn't believe my ears.
Because, compared to everyone else's stylish homes, I thought ours was an embarrassment. See, it's better off burned down.
Rachel's laughter echoed through the hospital room, filled with the smell of disinfectant. I glared at Rachel's smug profile with all the anger I could muster.
I know you're the one who set the fire. I will never forgive you. Just you wait, I'll make you regret this.
I'm Kelly, a 63-year-old housewife. While managing the accounting for the small factory my husband left behind, I lead a busy yet fulfilling life. My son, Dan, lives in the same city with his wife, Rachel, and their daughter, Anna, visiting me during long holidays. Rachel, my daughter-in-law, has been kind to me, especially after losing my husband last year. Dan, who left home after high school in defiance of his father's wishes to take over the factory, seemed to have been job hopping for a while. Rachel, who met Dan at the restaurant where they worked, watched over him warmly. When they decided to get married, I was full of gratitude for her marrying my less-than-perfect eldest son. Anna is a beauty like her mother and mature beyond her 9 years. We have fun baking cookies and chatting whenever she comes to visit on my days off. I intended to keep a good distance with my son's family. That's when Dan, who rarely calls, suggested they move in with me.
It must be lonely on your own. Why don't we live together? I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in living together. Don't be so stubborn. Having us and Anna around will help you feel less lonely. I'm not lonely at all. So, we're moving in with you next month. I said I'm not interested in living together.
Despite my refusal, my son's family moved in the following month. Well, living with my cute granddaughter and kind daughter-in-law isn't too bad. But soon, I was shocked to discover Rachel's true nature. I'm home. As I opened the front door, there stood Rachel, as always, standing imposingly in the entrance. She presented me with a speck of dust she had picked up with her fingertips, accusing me in a shrill voice.
There was dust in the corner of the stairs. I rushed to clean before work, so I must have missed some trash. Then you should wake up earlier. I can't invite my mom's friends over to such a shabby and dirty house.
I was infuriated. Then she, a full-time homemaker, should do the cleaning herself. Besides, although the exterior is a 30-year-old wooden two-story building, we renovated the interior 5 years ago, so there's nothing uncomfortable about living here.
Rachel, I'm working, and just preparing meals for 4 is tough enough. As we agreed when you moved in, I need help with cleaning and laundry.
Rachel's eyes narrowed at my words.
Huh? This is your house, so it's only natural that you do everything. Don't blame me just because you can't handle it.
I lost the will to argue and fell silent. I thought she was a quiet and lovely lady, but she was completely pretending. The next day, as I was about to open the gate to my home, I felt a strong gaze on my back. Turning around, I saw Camila from the neighborhood, staring at me with an eco bag in hand. After I greeted her, Camila frowned.
People aren't always what they seem. I never thought you'd be the type to bully your daughter-in-law.
Camila spoke with a tone of sympathy.
Rachel has been crying and telling everyone how you don't feed her properly, and how she gets scolded if she doesn't keep the house spotless every day, and how disgraceful it is for a daughter-in-law to work, and that you've even stopped her from working. I haven't said any of those things.
Camila looked at my face skeptically.
Well, I believe you, Kelly, but squashing rumors is gonna be tough. It's even reached the neighborhood association president, you know?
That explains why lately, the folks I bump into at the supermarket or on the street have been acting all weird around me. The moment we make eye contact, they scurry off, or groups suddenly disband. Probably, this gossip monger, Camila, spread the word for kicks. Watching her leave, I entered my house with a heavy heart. We had agreed before moving in together that utility bills and groceries would be split between our families. Yet, 6 months into living together, my son Dan and his wife Rachel hadn't paid their share of the living expenses. Even when I asked Rachel for payment on Dan's payday, she always had an excuse to stall.
Rachel, I sent you the breakdown of the living expenses a week ago on your cell, didn't I?
Oh, I forgot to withdraw the money.
I'll pay later, so could you cover for me in the meantime?
And just like that, another month would pass without them paying. After 6 months of this pattern, I finally confronted Dan.
I've been covering for you for half a year now. Dan, have you actually been giving Rachel the money? Geez, she said she's gonna pay later, so she will.
We're rich, so stop being so petty. I couldn't help but retort to my son's grudging reply.
Sure, we have your father's inheritance, and I'm still working, so we could manage without your contribution. But that's not the point. It's about responsibility. If Rachel can't pay, she should at least explain why to me.
What a nagging old lady.
What did you just say?
Just got back. Anna's voice from coming home from her lessons put a pause to our argument. Dan greeted Anna and went to take a shower, bringing our skirmish to a temporary halt. But the issues didn't end there. Shortly after moving in, Rachel began dressing up and going out on weekend nights, making Anna and me promise to keep it a secret from Dan. On weekends, Dan would be out drinking late with his colleagues, thinking if he got home before Rachel, he wouldn't find out. Honestly, if they have money for that, they should pay their living expenses first. One evening, while peeling potatoes in a gloomy mood after Rachel had left, Anna, washing the potatoes, murmured,
Mom's not planning to pay for the utilities or groceries, I think.
I stopped peeling.
You heard the conversation with your dad the other day? Yeah, it was audible all the way to the parking lot.
Anna said matter-of-factly.
Before moving, I overheard Mom and Dad saying, now that the annoying grandpa is gone, let's push into Grandma's place. If we live with her, we save on our rent, get meals prepared, and have the utilities paid for us. We can enjoy the savings. Was their plan from the start to make me pay for everything?
Anger slowly rose within me. Do they think of me as some sort of ATM cum housemaid?
And Mom can't do housework at all. When we were in the house, meals were just pastries or fast food, and she hardly cleaned. The only thing she really did was laundry, so don't expect too much, Grandma. Got it, Anna dear. Thanks for telling me,
I said with a forced smile and resumed peeling potatoes. To hear such words from my granddaughter, what a pitiful mother I must be. I felt a little sorry for Rachel. On Friday night, unusually cheerful, Rachel struck up a conversation. Kelly, do you have plans this Saturday? I quickly thought back. Last month, when I honestly answered a similar question, Rachel got furious. Trip? If you have that kind of leisure, give Anna some allowance instead. You're so thoughtless. I didn't want to hear that from someone who doesn't pay their living expenses. So I decided to hide the truth this time. I plan to relax at home. Oh, I see. If you do go out, make sure to tell me. I have plans too. Plans? I felt uneasy. Perhaps I should inform her about the trip afterward. After Rachel left, Anna came over with a bursting smile. Next Saturday, Mom and Dad are gonna take me shopping for clothes. It's been so long since we all went to the mall together, I'm excited. Her innocent smile made me smile too. That's wonderful. I hope you find some cute clothes. Yeah, I'll show them to you when we get back. I felt relieved. I've been worried about Anna, who, despite being mature for her age, seemed to lack the joyfulness of childhood. Seeing Anna's joy while shopping with her parents was truly heartwarming. And then came Saturday. After Dan's family left, I too left the house. It was a day trip to a beachside spa. At a wonderful hotel, I enjoyed a lunch filled with seafood delights. I felt all my accumulated stress melt away. Stepping off the train, I made my way home with a light step. As I walked along the night road, I saw a crowd from afar near my house. Beyond them, police cars and fire engines were parked, yellow tape was stretched out, and several firefighters and police officers stood around. Smelling smoke, I realized there had been a fire nearby. I wondered if everyone in the house was safe. As I walked on, lost in thought, Camila stopped me with a surprised look. Kelly? Weren't you at home? I went on a trip. Then, was that Dan who was taken away in an ambulance earlier? Dan went shopping. It seems he came back to get something and got caught in the fire. It was arson. My heart skipped a beat. Pushing through the crowd to a firefighter, I introduced myself and was led to the front of my house. I was at a loss for words at the sight before me. The traditional two-story house that stood there just this morning was nowhere to be found. All that remained was charred beams, parts of sooty walls, and what used to be furniture, now just debris. Kneeling on the sidewalk, I stared blankly at what was left of my home. A police officer approached me with hesitation. You were on a trip, right? Yes. We'd like to talk to you in more detail tomorrow. Can you give us your contact information? Without thinking, I gave him my cell phone number. Your son was involved in the fire, but fortunately, he's conscious. Do you know which hospital? No. Please tell me. The garage was spared from the fire, so my car was safe. As I looked up the hospital's direction on my cell phone, I received a call from Rachel. I heard you were seriously injured in the fire. Are you okay? I was on a trip. There was silence on the other end for a while. You were home all day today, right? I decided to go to the spa on a whim. The one taken away was Dan. Camila must have mistaken us. Dan and I have similar hairstyles and hair colors. Huh? I thought he didn't come back because we were supposed to meet at the station at 4. He must have gotten the day wrong for the arson. Huh? Never mind. Which hospital? I'll bring Anna. Rachel's nonchalant tone, as if she wasn't worried about her husband, felt off to me. Even if we didn't get along, he was her significant son. I rushed to the hospital, explained the situation at the reception, and hurried to the room. Seeing Dan lying on the bed, I couldn't help but tear up. It must have been hot and painful to get caught in a fire. Wrapped in bandages all over, he looked like a mummy. A while later, the doctor appeared and explained the treatment and hospitalization plans. Dan was seriously injured with burns all over his body, but his life was not in danger. He would need skin graft surgery using his own skin and treatment for the scars, requiring about 6 months of hospitalization. Soon after, Rachel and Anna arrived. Anna quickly teared up, stuttering Dad and kneeling beside the bed, sobbing. Next to her, Rachel glared at Dan with a terrible look. Then, suddenly turning to me across the bed, she snapped.
I told you to let me know if your plans changed. Why did you just go off? Do I need your approval to go out? Originally, it was supposed to be you lying there with severe burns. Don't you feel bad for Dan?
Blamed as if I were at fault, I couldn't agree. Then Rachel smirked maliciously.
Kelly, didn't you secretly cheer inside? With the insurance money, you can rebuild the house, and you escaped unharmed. Anyway, it's good riddance to that old shack.
I couldn't believe my ears. My precious home, filled with memories of my late husband, was reduced to beams and walls by the time I returned. Could she not imagine the shock I experienced? Taken aback, Rachel went on and on.
I mean, everyone else's houses are so stylish, and ours was just an old, shabby house. Embarrassing, right? Well, it's better off burning down. Mom, why would you say something so horrible?
Oh, it's the truth, Anna.
Moving our stuff to the hotel was the right call.
We're just lucky, you know. Rachel's loud laughter echoed through the hospital room, filled with the smell of disinfectant. Unable to argue in the hospital room, I clenched my fists and gritted my teeth, holding back my anger. Then, Dan, who seemed to be sleeping, moaned. That's right, Dan was conscious, despite being wrapped in bandages all over. He slightly moved his mouth and said in a low voice, Rachel.
What?
Rachel leaned down, bringing her ear close to Dan's mouth. After hearing Dan's whisper, Rachel's expression changed.
Got it, I'll handle it,
she said, then turned to Anna and me, suggesting it was time to leave. Walking down the hallway, I pondered over the exchange between Dan and Rachel. It remained a mystery, but I caught a few words: ashes, money. In fact, I inherited gold bars as part of my husband's estate. They're stored in a bank's safety deposit box, and I hadn't told Dan their exact location. Misunderstanding that the gold was in our home safe, Dan might have sneaked out during shopping to steal it while I was away. Unaware of this, Rachel, who had taken separate actions from Anna, might have committed arson. It's a 15-minute drive from the shopping mall to our house. If Rachel planned separate activities with a set meet-up time with Anna, it would be possible for her to set the fire. The words Rachel accidentally let slip got the day wrong, and the way she excitedly called me, thinking I was caught in the fire. Plus, her anger towards me in the hospital suggests that I was her target. Dan is the beneficiary of my insurance policy. Even if I survived with burns, a significant amount of sickness benefit would be deposited into Dan's account. Feeling dizzy with shock, my body heated up with anger. Rachel, setting our house on fire for my insurance money and coolly causing Dan severe burns. Above all, using shopping with Anna as a cover for her plot, showed no shred of motherliness. My heart ached seeing Anna walking down, head hung low. Her fun shopping memories probably erased. I glared at Rachel, anger burning through me.
I know you started the fire. I will never forgive you. Just wait, you'll regret this.
Considering Rachel's preparedness in moving their belongings to the hotel beforehand, it was clear she was the arsonist. Furious, but leaving the evidence gathering to the police. My next step was to find a temporary home. Before I could call, the president of my husband's factory called to check on me. After hearing my story, he immediately arranged 3 weeks of paid leave and started the process of moving me into company housing. Rachel was offered the same, but she chose to stay in a hotel with Anna, so I moved into the company housing alone, dragging my carry-on. After contacting the insurance company and buying essentials at a large supermarket, I returned home. Unpacking could wait. I microwaved a pre-made meal and ate. The moment my stomach was full, the tension broke, and exhaustion overwhelmed me. Thankful for the furnished room, I prepared the bed and fell asleep without changing. The next day was spent shopping for necessities, as everything had burned. Having my driver's license, cell phone, and credit cards was a small mercy. Sitting in the shopping center's food court, eating ice cream, I suddenly remembered the words I overheard between Dan and Rachel. On my way back to the company housing, I stopped by the remains of our house and saw Rachel, phone in hand, sifting through the ashes. Dan, you won't find the safe here. It contains the gold bars, right? Oh, Anna's piano lesson time. Yes, I can come in 4 days. I'll search again then. Hidden behind the neighbor's fence. Hearing her conversation, I was certain. They were indeed searching for the gold bars. She planned to take them without telling me. Smirking, I left, planning a grand welcome for them. 4 days later, Rachel arrived at the charred remains to find neighborhood women gossiping in a circle. Hello, Camila, Nancy, Lisa. She greeted me in her sweet voice. They all frowned at her turn. Camila, with a grim face, spoke up. We heard about the fire. You're the arsonist, Rachel? What? Fooled by your quiet appearance. Planning to burn your husband and claim the insurance money, were you? How scary. You knew Dan was there and still set the fire? What's the police doing? Instead of letting criminals roam free, they should lock you up. Faced with their glares, Rachel was flustered. Thanks to always being charming and playing the role of the poor daughter-in-law bullied by her mother-in-law, Rachel had won over the residents, who suddenly turned against her. I wasn't trying to kill Dan. Rachel's voice faded to a whisper, and I chimed in from the shadows. No, that's not it. Kelly? The real target was me. You set the fire thinking I was in the house. Rachel froze. But then, she forced a stiff smile. I don't understand what you're saying. The safe? I moved it to the company housing on the day of the incident. Her face lit up when I told her. Are you coming now? I'll come right now. Rachel's voice was lively, and I smirked. Upon arriving at the company housing, Rachel's attitude changed drastically, rubbing her forehead on the floor. I'm sorry, Kelly. Actually, Dan, from his sickbed, ordered me to look for the gold bars. He said they could be sold for money, so I was wandering around the ruins, trying to steal them amidst the chaos of the fire. But I didn't commit arson. Oh, you were looking for this, weren't you? I brought out a silver dial-type safe from the back of the room, and Rachel's eyes sparkled. She watched eagerly as I opened the safe. But all that emerged was a bundle of old letters. Letters my husband gave me before we got married. Good thing I kept them in the safe. Damn, just trash. So, where are the gold bars? In a bank safety deposit box. You're going to have to ask a master thief for that. What a waste of time. I'm leaving. As Rachel attempted to stand up, I gently told her. Don't be in such a hurry, the main event is just starting. What main event? Rachel's irritation was apparent as I flipped a large envelope, spilling a vast amount of photos onto the living room table. Rachel gasped and covered her mouth. No wonder, the photos showed her out at night, happily walking through nightlife districts arm in arm with a man, and entering nightclubs with bags from high-end brands. Rachel, I heard you were quite the delinquent back home. Did you research that too? Your hometown is where our second factory is located. You were quite the troublemaker, breaking shop signs and factory windows. That's in the past, I've forgotten about it. Rachel defiantly lifted her chin. Oh really? But these are recent. I laid out a few photos, tilting my head. Strange. You're a stay-at-home wife, right? Where's the money for these night outs coming from? Maybe Dan's card? Rachel, panicking, pleaded with me. Please, keep it a secret from Dan. If he finds out I've been using his card and even resorted to loan sharks, he'll definitely divorce me. So, you set the fire. Tried to burn me along with the house, how terrible. I said mockingly, and Rachel's face turned into a mask of rage, her voice shrill.
Burning you was the quickest way. Either get the insurance money, or at least the sickness allowance if it fails. I mean, burning that old house was better. Living there was making me sick. A rebuild would have made your late husband happy, wouldn't it?
I sneered. My patience is running thin.
That house was rebuilt when Dan was born. After discussing with my husband, we decided on a traditional architecture that suited wedding ceremonies and rooms.
You have no right to comment as a freeloader. Rachel's forehead vein bulged.
I'm going to the restroom, don't leave just yet.
I insisted and headed to the washroom. As soon as the bathroom door closed, a man's sharp voice rang out.
Hey, what are you doing?
Rushing back to the living room, I found Rachel being restrained by two men in suits. A bottle of pills rolled across the floor.
Rachel attempted to drug Kelly's coffee with a sleep inducer. Rachel, you are under arrest for assault. What? Why are there detectives in the next room? Of course. Talking to an arsonist alone is too dangerous.
I shrugged, and Rachel glared at me with piercing eyes.
Can we take your earlier statement as a confession? I didn't say I set the fire. Then, let's discuss the other charges at the station. Other charges?
Rachel looked bewildered, and I smiled at her.
The mischief you got up to when you were 18. Remember breaking the factory windows?
Oh, that pathetic factory. Our second factory.
The broken window damaged an important machine, causing a week's shutdown and significant financial loss.
I explained politely.
Back then, we couldn't pinpoint the suspect, but thanks to the detectives' inquiries in Rachel's hometown this time, we could identify you as the culprit.
I told Rachel, whose expression stiffened.
All that over something from 10 years ago? We still claim damages.
I said with a full smile.
The total damage and compensation might be around $200,000. $200,000? I can't pay that amount.
Rachel trembled, her face pale, as the detective handcuffed her.
Rachel, you're under arrest for suspicion of assault.
The detective declared as Rachel was led away, and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. The plan by Dan and his wife unfolded just as I had suspected. They went out to the mall as a family, setting a meet-up time with Anna to split up. Dan's unexpected departure to smoke a cigarette, which was actually to retrieve the gold bars from the house, was unforeseen by Rachel. She, following the plan, doused a stack of newspapers in the parking lot with kerosene and set it on fire. Dan, mistaking the execution day by a week, got caught in the act. Rachel, the perpetrator of the arson, faced charges for attempted murder by arson, drugging my coffee with a sleep inducer for assault, and the vandalism from 10 years ago. Eager for a quick settlement, I agreed on a $100,000 settlement to facilitate Rachel's social rehabilitation. Rachel, burdened with a massive debt of $320,000, including the unauthorized use of Dan's card amounting to $20,000, the settlement of $100,000, and the vandalism charge of $200,000, works tirelessly at our factory from dawn till dusk to pay it off monthly. She seems to be sobbing at work, saying it'll take a lifetime to pay off. Dan, who had conspired with Rachel planning to split my insurance money, was arrested after his discharge. We settled with a $100,000 payment, withdrawing the complaint and having him work at our factory. The harsh working conditions of hot summers and freezing winters must be tough for Dan, who used to switch jobs whenever he disliked something. However, after threatening him with the possibility of jail and the option to sue again, he quieted down. Despite Dan's fury over Rachel's misuse of his card, they lived together in the factory's company housing, arguing but not divorcing to avoid extra living costs. I bought a condo near Anna's elementary school with the fire insurance payout, and we began living together. Dan and Rachel, insisting on seeing Anna, have been pestering us, but since she wants to avoid them for now, their reunion seems to be on hold. The compensation from Rachel for the vandalism goes into the factory's funds. Despite being separated from her parents, Anna shows no sign of loneliness and goes to school cheerfully. When I'm busy, she cooks something, or even does the shopping for me. Living with my adorable granddaughter is more comfortable than I had imagined. I plan to continue overseeing the factory my husband left behind while living with my granddaughter.
It was supposed to be our first trip in a long time, but I had to cancel because of some urgent work. I'll make it up to you later, I promise.
Today was the day we had reserved to go to a luxury hotel as a couple's trip. Shaken by the call from Tom, I asked him why. But he was clearly acting strange and dodging the question. Thinking something must have happened, I immediately called our daughter Holly.
So it's true then. All right, I'll handle it from here. Mom, just stay put at home. I'll get ready and head over soon. Okay, I'll be waiting.
I've always felt something off about Tom's behavior. Tom, who had been strange since before he became the CEO in his early 30s. The distrust isn't easy to shake off, though it's natural for him to be at the company as its CEO. I called Tom again, urging him to come home soon. When Tom returned home in the morning, he apologized. What a foolish man. I thought to myself, then said, "Oh. Why don't you take a look behind you?" The moment Tom turned around and saw me and the person next to me, he went pale. My name is Juliana, a 45-year-old homemaker. Until 2 years ago, it was just my husband, our daughter, and me living together, but recently, Holly got married. Now that she's working, Holly and her husband live together, and it's just Tom and me at home. Thanks to Tom running a well-known company since his early 30s, we had no financial troubles when Holly was young. We used to go on trips often, just the three of us. Holly looked forward to these trips so much that she would make sure Tom made the reservations properly. Tom took care of all the payments for the hotel reservations. Even when I offered to pay, Tom insisted on doing it himself. We thanked each other and must have looked like a loving couple to anyone. I never forgot to be grateful, and I managed our finances well. But this story dates back to when Holly was a child. As Holly entered middle school, Tom's behavior began to change gradually. When I went to pick Holly up and returned home, Tom, who should have been there, was nowhere to be found. I tried calling him several times, but he never picked up. Sometimes, when he did come home, he would just play with his smartphone and fall asleep on the couch. And that's not all. He stopped contributing money to the household, which he had always done before. When Holly wanted to have a wedding ceremony, Tom dismissed it with a displeased look. When she mentioned wanting children, Tom negated it, assuming future hardships. We, as her parents, should have wanted to support her. But Tom wouldn't listen to Holly's opinions and just imposed his own, arms crossed.
You're young, you and your husband should be able to cover it. What's with that attitude? That's so unfair to Holly.
Just because they're young doesn't mean they can easily afford it. I stood up for Holly. But Tom just sneered with a snort, arms crossed. It's the truth, isn't it?
She should be supporting us after all we've done to raise her. Not supporting her is just wrong, don't you think?
My anger made no difference to Tom's opinion. Why all the negativity? The Tom I knew wouldn't have said such things. He used to be so supportive, even when Holly was born. When Holly was a baby, he said childcare should come before work. Maybe it was because many around us became stay-at-home moms, but Tom was kind not just to me but to Holly as well. Even with his busy job, he always came home to see Holly's sleeping face, finding solace in it. He prioritized love above all else, but what changed him? Just thinking about it gives me a headache, so I turned to exercising as a hobby for physical and mental relief. Tom's negativity shocked Holly. Speaking of the person in question, there were many times he hardly came home at all. During such a time, I got a call from Holly.
Sorry, Mom. I don't want Dad to know, but I'm pregnant. I can't come home anymore, so I thought I'd tell you in advance. That's so, I'm relieved. I was afraid you had given up because of what your father said. Not at all. I've always said I wanted kids. I'll raise them right.
Yeah, okay. Do your best, Holly.
But don't overdo it, okay? Rely on others sometimes.
Holly sounded happy as she replied, "Got it." I strongly felt that this was something I couldn't tell Tom. I thought it best to say nothing when he came back and just act as usual. Months passed since Tom stopped coming home. Then, I received a message from Holly with a photo attached. It was to announce the birth of her child. A cute child, looking just like Holly, appeared on the screen. How adorable. I'm so glad. Glad that mother and child are safe. As I was tearing up over these thoughts, Tom snatched my smartphone with a threatening tone.
Having kids, huh? How can you say such horrible things? To your own daughter, no less. Isn't your grandchild precious to you? Give me back my phone.
No way.
I thought you and Holly were up to something, and it turns out I was right. Don't expect me to approve of her getting married now.
Tom, who had just come back suddenly, began to deny Holly's personal life. I didn't understand why he was so stubborn, and I argued back.
No parent doesn't support their own child. Maybe you should reconsider your position? And when exactly were you planning to work, being a homemaker all this time? I don't want to hear it from someone who hasn't lifted a finger even after her daughter became an adult.
That stung. I was a homemaker because I was raising our child. I admit there's some truth to his point, but I still intend to stand by Holly. It's a fact that I couldn't stand Tom just complaining and then heading off to work without coming home properly. Being in my 40s, finding a job wasn't going to be easy. After discussing with Holly, I learned that upskilling is a trend in the job market these days. So, I decided to upgrade my skills to get a job. With the help of online courses, I finally acquired some skills. With Holly's support, I managed to start working from home after a long time. Tom made a strange face when he saw me working as usual. He seemed shocked, thinking I was still just a homemaker. I had never seen that expression on him before, and I couldn't help but laugh.
This is good, right?
Yeah, I guess.
I never thought you'd actually work, so I'm surprised.
Despite his criticism of not working, he still looked down on me. Why can he only speak in such a demeaning way? Just as I was about to retort, Tom made a suggestion.
If you're working now, that means we can afford to stay at a luxury hotel.
What is he talking about now? A luxury hotel, the one we talked about going to when we were newlyweds and hadn't been married long? Back then, traveling was my hobby. I had stayed in all the local hotels and wanted to go somewhere new. That's when we found out Holly was on the way, and I said I wanted to prioritize parenting. Since prioritizing parenting, the three of us never went together. My routine was housework, Tom was the CEO of a well-known company, and Holly went to school. I had forgotten for a while, but I finally remembered. Truth be told, I still want to go on a trip. I wanted a couple's trip at some point, so I'm honestly very happy. But seeing Tom's attitude now, I wonder if it's okay to go together. I had thought we could enjoy some good times as a couple, but even now, things are awkward. I decided to try making a suggestion to Tom. Just in case he had any objections, I wanted to leave the decision up to him.
Want to go together? Don't you think it'd be nice for us to have some time together as a couple after so long? But what about the money? I can't prepare it right away, you know.
Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Right, Tom is the CEO of a well-known company. I was so caught up in how poorly Tom was treating Holly, but he remembered the time we went on our honeymoon. Feeling excited inside, I decided to start preparing a week before the reservation date. It seemed like money wouldn't be a concern, but just in case, I decided to bring the money I earned from working from home. Then, on the day we were supposed to go to the luxury hotel, Tom called to say he suddenly had to work.
It was supposed to be our first trip in a long time, but I have to cancel because of some urgent work. I'll make it up to you later, I promise.
I was looking forward to it, but then Tom canceled on the day of the reservation. As I roughly pulled clothes out of the neatly packed carry-on bag, tears of frustration overflowed. Does he think he can just blame everything on work? Asking Tom for a reason only leads to him dodging the question, never consulting with me. I was looking forward to it, really. I don't understand that man. I muttered to myself and then cried out loud. After a while, I managed to compose myself. It's all right. I want more than just a marriage in name. I want a real relationship. I'll stop expecting us to be a cooperative couple. I called Holly's phone. Then, I heard Ken's voice over the phone. Holly and Ken were talking about something, but I couldn't make out the details. However, it seemed like Holly was panicking, and Ken was trying to keep calm, almost like they were arguing. It must be about that issue. It seemed like the result of a request I had made to Holly, and Ken was ready. And they said they needed to come over to our house urgently, as it required both Tom and me to be present. Before Holly and Ken arrived, I tried calling Tom's phone. As expected, it went straight to voicemail. Hearing the familiar voicemail message made me even more irritated. After calling several times, I finally got through to Tom. Today is Sunday. He left the house early in the morning and hadn't returned by the evening. Common reasons for divorce include debts or affairs. Despite a bad feeling, I questioned Tom.
Today, Holly is coming over. Please come home soon. There's something important I need to talk to you about.
Important talk?
Wait, didn't I tell you I had urgent work and had to cancel the trip to the luxury hotel?
Tom laughed as if he had the upper hand. It's hard to believe that a company with weekends off would work on Sunday. Especially when it's known as a good company. Implying good work-life balance. But listening to Tom's explanation, you'd think the company wasn't so good after all. I decided to share the information Ken had dug up about Tom.
I've heard, but that's not the point. I was wondering if maybe you've gotten into debt. Debt? What are you basing that on? I don't understand.
From your reaction, it seems true. If you don't come back, I'll throw away all your stuff. That's my offer. His voice was trembling. But after hearing what Holly and Ken had found, I didn't want to believe it. Yet, Tom's actions and the word debt seemed to connect correctly. It's natural for a wife to not want to believe such things.
Don't throw away my stuff, please.
No.
If you don't face this, I'm considering divorce. Wait, okay. I'll apologize, just give me some time. I won't accept just an apology, show me through your actions. I'll be waiting at home.
I hung up the phone, feeling my body shaking. It's always painful to be on the receiving end of unpleasant words, to always be the one to tolerate. Exhausted, I sat down at the entrance. Tom's company is supposed to have weekends off. And being the CEO, there shouldn't be any financial issues. Perhaps something was wrong between us as a couple. Even with these feelings, it wasn't my choice to live like this with Tom. As I was thinking this, Holly arrived. Seeing me sitting at the entrance, Holly looked worriedly at me.
Mom, are you okay? Ken is here too. He's smarter than me, so when Dad arrives, let's get everything out in the open.
Yeah. Sorry for showing you such a pathetic sight.
Don't worry about it, it's okay. Plus, today, I was really hoping to eat your cooking, Mom. Do you think you're up for it? Can I help?
Holly was considerate, offering to take over household chores for me. Becoming a mother, Holly. Oh, how desperately I lived as a mother. There were times I was so focused I couldn't see anything else, but I understand it was all to protect my child. For now, we prioritized cooking dinner together. I figured Tom would come back late at night or in the morning. While preparing dinner with Holly, I realized Ken hadn't shown up at all.
Where's Ken? Ken said he'd wait outside because of Dad's issue. Plus, he didn't want to leave the kids alone, so he dropped them off at his parents' and then he's waiting in the car. Right, it's dangerous to leave a child alone. Yeah. Plus, we don't want to expose them to our parents' arguments, right? Ken and I want to live in peace.
I was struck by her words, and Holly gave me a reassuring smile. Parents' arguments. Holly must have endured her share too. It made me feel complicated. Then, a notification popped up on my phone. It was a message from Tom, saying he'd be back tomorrow morning.
I'll let Ken know. We should get ready too. Me too. But how about we all have a light meal first? Good idea.
Until Tom arrived, Holly, Ken, and I gathered to eat together. Ken apologized for being late in greeting us. He was so considerate, it warmed my heart. Seeing the dishes on the table, Ken looked surprised. When I asked why, he laughed joyfully, saying my cooking was too gourmet for him.
And to think, a husband who doesn't eat these delicious meals every day, that's kind of sad, isn't it? I'm used to it, I guess. As long as Holly and you visit occasionally, that's enough for me. That's good to hear. I feel ready to face your husband head on.
We've turned a blind eye to things. Thanks in advance for tomorrow morning, both of you, I said, and Holly and Ken replied in unison, yes. They looked at each other and burst into laughter. It's nice, their closeness. Honestly, I'm so envious of their relationship, it's almost jealousy. But the main issue is Tom's true intentions. The fact that the word debt shook him proves my intuition was right. And the information Holly and Ken gathered was accurate. That fact alone stuck in my mind, making me sad. After dinner and cleaning up, we held a strategy meeting for the next morning. To make sure everything went smoothly. To ensure Tom couldn't make excuses. I hated that Tom always wanted to appear as the good guy while staying safe himself. After the meeting, we decided to sleep in the same room. Waking up, I saw a message from Tom saying he'd be home soon. I shared the news with Holly and Ken, and we took our places as planned. I knew this wouldn't be the end, but the effort we put in was real. I have no regrets about ending our marital relationship. Yet, I couldn't help thinking if there was something more I could have done. If I had acted sooner, maybe we wouldn't have had to go through all this trouble. I would have blamed myself if not for Holly and Ken's comforting presence. I felt pathetic as both a parent and an individual. As I was lost in thought, Tom barged in. He immediately apologized loudly enough for the neighbors to hear.
I'm sorry, Juliana. I'll book a luxury hotel again, let's go together.
It must have been his way of thinking. Unfortunately, it didn't resonate with me at all. Noticing the silence, he looked up, calling my name while searching the house. But I wasn't there. I was in the car with Holly and Ken.
Now's the time, Mom. Right, let's do this. Go for it, Mom.
Encouraged by Holly, I stepped out of the car. As Tom was about to re-enter the house, I called out, "Hey, wait." He turned around in shock, making a strange noise. I took a deep breath before speaking.
Tom, we need to talk. Talk? We can reschedule the trip some other time, can't we?
Okay.
Then, why don't you take a look behind you?
Behind? As he turned, Tom saw Holly and Ken standing behind me. But his reaction to seeing Ken was one of fear.
You are? Long time no see.
I'm married to Holly. You knew that, right?
I'm aware of it.
Where did all that momentum go just now? Ken, with a smile on his face, bowed and reached out for a handshake with Tom. But Tom, shaking off his hand, yelled with a face like a demon.
What happened to my request? You said the results would be quick, but there's been no word at all.
Oh, was that so?
You seemed quite happy plotting your get-rich-quick schemes behind the scenes from dawn till dusk. What's that supposed to mean? I haven't heard anything about it.
Of course, we've got evidence.
Your mother was worried about you, but as Holly said, you're just a man after a quick fortune.
And then, Ken, having somehow seized them earlier, pulled out several credit cards. Due to Tom's get-rich-quick schemes, the borrowed amount was so high that it was beyond repayment.
Let's end this. I can't see you fixing this. You should apologize to your mother first, like a man would.
Tom muttered something under his breath with a face like the end of the world, but eventually, he slowly bowed his head. In a barely audible voice, Tom said, "I'm sorry." Thanks to Ken's efforts, a brilliant lawyer, Tom's debts came to light. I conveyed to Ken that living together any longer would be meaningless. Ken smiled and said, "Exactly," and proceeded with the paperwork. The detail was about reducing the debt on Tom's cards. However, I decided not to cooperate because I believe in taking responsibility, so I communicated that direction.
Is divorce the right way to go?
Yes, please. Understood.
I will discuss it with Tom again after reviewing the divorce papers. May I act as your representative?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you as well.
Having given permission for him to act as a representative, Ken also mentioned he would get consent from the person involved later. Meanwhile, Tom was doing a cleaning job. It seems Tom says the consequences of freely spending money as a CEO have caught up to him. Self-inflicted, yet he dares to complain. We decided to file for divorce after our final discussion. Until the very end, Tom kept whining, "I don't want to separate. Stop your futile resistance. I believe it's utterly wrong to ever cause trouble for others again. And instead of hiding and being exposed later, it's better to speak up when necessary. Money, while convenient, can also bring one's life crashing down." Afterward, Tom and I divorced. I started living alone, something I had always wanted, but it felt lonely after always living with someone. When Holly heard about it, she suggested living together. When I asked if she was sure, Holly gladly agreed. Greeted by Holly and Ken. And their little girl, born in the meantime. Her tiny hands grasped my fingers tightly. Pure, tearful eyes looked up at me, making me feel truly grateful. Seeing this, Holly and Ken smiled happily.
"Mom, it's a surprise."
A surprise?
"Yes, feel my belly?"
I felt a slight movement in Holly's belly. Looking up, I asked Holly, "A second one?"
"Yes. It seems I was already pregnant when we started exposing Dad's debts." "That's great. I'm so happy to have the chance to care for a child again."
"Yes. We're counting on you for a while, Mom."
"Leave it to me."
Holly stood smiling beside me. And Ken wanted to get in on the action, saying, "Of course, I'll help out too." It was rare for him to show defiance, and Holly laughed as if it was amusing. Ken is serious about work and now preparing for the second child with Holly. I can't be outdone by the young couple, so I decided to start yoga. As you age, maintaining physical strength becomes necessary. If I'm going to help raise my granddaughter, I need to be fit. Living day by day, especially being careful with money, we plan to live happily and support each other.
"No way. Our house is."
This house and the land belong to us. We can do whatever we want, right? The daughter-in-law should just be a maid in our house. As I raise my voice in shock, my mother-in-law is smirking at me. The moment John passed away, my mother-in-law arbitrarily demolished our house. She has always been like this. Treating me, the daughter-in-law, as if I were her servant, completely ignoring my opinions and feelings. Moreover, she misunderstands me working from home as being unemployed and thinks I'm leeching off her son. She seems to think it's okay to do anything to a leeching daughter-in-law. But I never imagined she would go this far. I've been enduring it until now, but I've reached my limit. Feeling anger rising inside me, I slowly opened my mouth to retaliate against her in front of me. My name is Mary Johnson. I'm a 43-year-old working housewife. I usually work from home. I don't have children, and it's been 12 years since my husband John and I started living together. We just got married and don't have much money, right? So, I decided to take over the house where my dad and mom were living. My parents are going to live in a new house built elsewhere, so we can live in the old one. At the beginning of our marriage, John told me such a thing, and I, who knew nothing yet, was quite happy. I was thinking of our own home, but I was anxious whether we could afford it with what John and I earn, so I was very thankful to my in-laws.
"Mom, thank you so much. This makes our married life more comfortable."
"Don't worry about it. We get to live in a new house, and we don't have to deal with the old house, so it actually helps us." I was thanked by her instead and thought I had a generous mother-in-law. Under these circumstances, the house where John and I live is registered under my in-laws' names. I have suggested changing the registration numerous times, but John has been lazy about it, and it has remained the same. However, this was a mistake.
This house is also ours. You're saying to us it's troublesome if you just come over unannounced, but indeed, who do you think you are?
I reprimanded her for her repeated unannounced visits. Even though I work from home, it's impossible to get any work done if you keep coming over all the time. When I mentioned this, wrapped in diplomacy, she snapped back, claiming this was their house. Since then, she has always spoken down to me, constantly complaining. As for my father-in-law, he's completely under her thumb, practically non-existent. I complained to John, but he just said, "It's not my problem," and wouldn't even listen properly. My mother-in-law's sarcasm and harassment have escalated over the years, and recently, she has started doing unexpected things. The other day, she took home clothes of mine that were clearly too small for her, claiming they suited her better. After all, she couldn't wear them and returned them to me in a huff. What will happen if her sarcasm and harassment get worse in the end? I've been living day by day, unable to do anything, with a hint of anxiety. One night, I was enjoying a slightly luxurious dinner alone. It was my 43rd birthday, but John was going to be late because of work, so I bought some deli food from the department store's food hall. Enjoying a nice drink, I savored my solo dinner. John has only celebrated my birthday for about 2 years since we got married. Now, it seems he's completely forgotten today is my birthday. Well, it's fine. I don't want a celebration now. Having the freedom to eat what I like is the best birthday present for me. It was a brief time until John came home, but I was fully enjoying my alone time. However, the pleasant time was ruined in an instant by the merciless sound of the doorbell, followed by the thumping of footsteps.
Hey, Mary, it looks like John's suit jacket isn't here yet. Hasn't he come back?
My mother-in-law barges into the living room without any prior notice, making me almost sigh, "Oh, again." This is a regular occurrence for me. Since it happens almost every day, I don't even bother complaining to her anymore. "He's going to be late because of work today," I answered with a forced smile, to which she showed a displeased face. Then she noticed the deli food on the table and her eyes widened.
"Mary, what's this food? You didn't make this fancy stuff, did you?"
"I'm sure you couldn't."
This is some deli food I bought. Actually, today is my birthday, so I was enjoying a little nice dinner by myself." I tried to continue, but she interrupted me with a shrill voice. "Oh. While your husband is out working, you're at home enjoying a luxurious meal? What a terrible wife!" "Huh? But I was working today too." "Working? You were just playing on the computer, right? Using my son's money to buy such nice food."
I always work from home on my computer, but to her, it seems like I'm just playing games. I've explained it many times, but she doesn't listen or try to understand.
For someone unemployed, indulging in such luxury, you really lack the awareness of a wife.
With that, she grabbed my half-eaten meal and threw it into the trash.
"What are you doing? You, an unemployed person, should just eat beans or whatever."
Moreover, she started rummaging through the fridge without permission.
"Please stop."
"Oh my. This cake, it's from a high-end store. Such waste on someone unemployed like you. I'll properly throw it away later." With that, she snatched the cake box. The deli food was thrown away because it was half-eaten by me. But the cake was untouched, and from her smirking face, it seemed she planned to take it home to eat. I was furious and tried desperately to take back the cake box from her.
"That's my birthday cake. Please give it back."
"Oh, it's your birthday? There's nothing to celebrate. You're already in your 40s, not a child. You don't need this." And then she added insult to injury with such a snide remark. "Really, you become such a lazy wife because you don't have children. I've told you over and over to have kids." At those words, I grimaced deeply. I wanted kids too. But John said having kids would be too much trouble, so he didn't cooperate. He used to say he wanted kids before we got married, but were those words a lie? I've explained to her over and over that John doesn't want them, but she seems to conveniently forget the inconvenient truths. She blames me every chance she gets, saying it's my fault we don't have children.
I'll start cleaning up now, so please go home for today. It gets dangerous when it gets dark outside.
I try to sound concerned for her, to get her out of the house. My enjoyable alone time was ruined because of her. I usually don't say anything to John, but this time I might not be able to hold back. I used to think it was okay for him to come back late, but now I'm waiting for him to come home, irritated and thinking, hurry back. When John finally comes home, I immediately try to tell him about what happened earlier. John silently hands over his bag, and as I take it as usual, I start talking.
Hey John, your mom came over today and…
Then, John grimaces severely.
Look, I'm tired, okay? Can we talk about your complaints some other time?
I would normally back off here, but today I can't hold back. Despite hesitating a bit, I persistently pressed John.
When is some other time? I know you're tired, but I need you to listen to me now. You're so persistent. I'm telling you I'm tired. I'm not free like you.
He throws his suit at me in annoyance. I snap back, irritated by his attitude.
I've been working at home too. Your job doesn't bring in much money, right? You're living off my earnings, so don't talk back to me like that.
John's words leave me wide-eyed in shock. Does he really not know that I've been working and managing our finances? The amount he gives me each month for living expenses is minimal. We couldn't possibly live on just that. Yet, it seems he's convinced that the money he provides is enough for a comfortable life. At the beginning of our marriage, I showed John the household budget and explained how much we needed each month. John was surprised, saying, "It costs more than I expected," but he seems to have completely forgotten about that. Forgetting inconvenient truths must run in his family, just like his mother.
John, my earnings are…
Thinking this misunderstanding is terrible, I try to explain in a hurry. But John forcibly cuts me off, not wanting to hear any more.
Your trivial story is less important than mine.
Look at this. He hands me the health checkup results from his company, taken about 2 months ago. Checking the content, almost all items have bad ratings.
This result is terrible. Isn't it your cooking to blame? You haven't been putting something weird in the food, have you? There's no way I would do that. Then your cooking must be unbalanced in nutrients. Watch what you're making from now on.
John says arrogantly, but he hasn't eaten the meals I've made for the last few years. In the morning, he eats snacks or fast foods left out, has lunch out, and occasionally eats my dinner but leaves the vegetables and only eats what he likes. He usually comes home drunk when he eats out. I've told him several times that such eating habits would ruin his health, but he never listened. Instead, he found my advice annoying and brushed it off. Even though it's clearly his fault, he refuses to accept any blame and puts it all on me. I'm about to snap at him in anger, but I know getting mad now will only make things worse.
You need to get a re-examination. It says so right here, doesn't it? Please make sure to get it done as soon as possible.
I urged John to go for a re-examination while suppressing my irritation. However, John frowns and retorts.
No way, that's too much hassle. You just need to be more careful, that's all.
With that, he left for a bath, leaving the living room. I was left standing there, stunned. John is a husband who doesn't even celebrate my birthday, but I was the one who chose to marry him. I am genuinely concerned about John. Yet, why can't my feelings get through to him? Feeling empty, I started to be even more careful with the meals I prepared from that day on. But despite my efforts, John passed away about a year later. I had repeatedly begged him to go for a re-examination. However, he ignored my requests and let it be.
I don't have time for such bothersome things like re-examinations.
Yet, when he was at home on his days off, he just lounged around. There were plenty of opportunities for him to go for a re-examination. And when he started saying, "I feel weird, like something's off with my body," his condition rapidly worsened, and by the time he was taken to the hospital, it was too late. There was nothing to be done, and John passed away quickly.
It's your fault my son ended up like this. Give my son back.
My mother-in-law blamed me harshly for John's death. My father-in-law was still as absent as ever, but the look he gave me was filled with resentment. He probably thought the same as his wife. I told them repeatedly.
I told John many times that the results of his medical checkup were bad and he needed to have a re-examination. But he wouldn't listen to me.
I tried desperately to clear up the misunderstanding, but my mother-in-law wouldn't believe a word I said.
It's all your fault. I'll hate you for the rest of my life.
After that, we held John's funeral, but my in-laws didn't help at all.
It's your responsibility, Mary. You take care of everything.
That's what they told me, and I had to handle all the funeral arrangements and subsequent procedures by myself. I was so busy I felt dizzy, but my in-laws ignored it all. John often said he hated hassle, and I think he got that from his parents. My in-laws always pushed their problems onto me. This time was no different. They blamed everything on me and pushed all the troubles onto me. They acted as if it was natural and never thanked me once. I'm tired. The funeral was over, and I had finally finished all the arrangements. Today, I will rest without thinking about anything. Staggering, I crawled into bed. When I woke up, I could hear my mother-in-law's voice. "Yes, thank you very much for that." Wondering what was going on, I got up from the bed. I heard her voice from outside the bedroom and realized she had let herself into our house again, and I sighed. I tidied myself up to the minimum and went to see her, who was at the entrance, suddenly handing me something. "Hey, did someone come by?"
No, no one came. But Mary, you must be tired with all that's happened. Here, take this ticket and have a good rest.
Eh? I looked at what she handed me and realized it was a ticket to the station nearest to my parents' house. Come on, hurry up and get ready. That ticket is for departure tomorrow. I've included the return ticket as well. Take a week off and relax." Pushed by her, I started preparing for an unexpected trip back home. What's all this about? It's unbelievable for her not to make a single sarcastic remark at me. Could it be that she actually feels sorry for me about it? Maybe my mother-in-law feels regret that she blamed me for John's passing away and that she pushed all the paperwork on me. And yes, I am completely exhausted right now. I needed time to stretch out and refresh by going back to my parents' house. At that time, I was still tired and didn't notice if she was scheming something. Normally, I would have been suspicious of her actions. But this time, I completely let my guard down and returned to my parents' house without a second thought. My brother and his wife live there, but when I contacted them, they said, "Come over anytime." I took their word for it and relaxed without holding back at my parents' house. I met up with old friends and played with my brother's children, fully healing my fatigue.
My mother-in-law does do something nice once in a while.
On the day of my return, I boarded the high-speed train in a good mood. Unusually, I bought a souvenir for her and returned home with a lighter heart and body. However, what awaited me upon my return was my house, brutally demolished.
No way! Our house is. This house and land are ours, so we can do whatever we want, right? The daughter-in-law should just be a maid in our house.
She, with a triumphant grin, sneered. Indeed, since the house and land were still in my in-laws' names, they could do whatever they wanted with their property. But I never imagined they would go this far. Maybe, the person she was talking to on the doorstep that day was from the demolition company. While pushing the funeral and all sorts of procedures on me, she must have been advancing her plan to demolish this house. Otherwise, there's no way they could demolish the house so quickly. She clearly looked down on me, thinking she could do anything she wanted because I was her son's wife. I never directly confronted her because she was my husband's mother. That probably emboldened her. But I won't let her have her way anymore.
Oh, Mary, what's the matter? Shocked and crying, are you?
Mistaking my bowed head for crying, she bent down to peer into my face. However, I slowly raised my head and faced her, showing a bright smile.
Eh? What are you smiling about? Have you gone crazy from the shock?
She says it's such a shock, so she must be aware she has done something terrible. The fact was so absurd that I started chuckling. Eventually, I couldn't hold back and burst out laughing loudly.
Have you really gone mad?
No, I am perfectly sane.
Oh, by the way, I have to decline your offer from earlier.
What was it?
The daughter-in-law should now be a maid in our house, right?
While she was flustered by my words, she responded.
No, you're lying. You've lost your husband and now your house, you have nowhere to go, right? I believe your brother's family lives at your parents' place, right? It must be embarrassing to return to your parents' house at your age, so we will take care of you. But as a maid, of course.
Regaining her usual tone, she gave a sinister smirk. To that, I replied while laughing.
A daughter-in-law? What are you talking about?
I am single.
Eh?
A dumbfounded voice came from her, and I nearly laughed again.
Actually, I divorced John a month before he died.
Yes, John and I had already returned to being strangers. But right after submitting the divorce papers, John's condition suddenly worsened. Despite being divorced, he was someone I once loved and married, so I couldn't just abandon him. That's why I decided to take care of John until the end. With all the chaos, I had lost the moment to inform my in-laws. But I never expected such a perfect moment to come. So, I have no obligation to live with you.
After all, we are strangers.
She had intended to drive me out of my home and take me into hers, to treat me as a real maid. Recently, she has been complaining about how her body isn't moving as well as it used to because of her age. However, she has also been adamant about never wanting to enter a nursing home. She intended to have me look after her until she passed away. Normal people might wonder if that's a reason to demolish a house, but she is capable of doing outrageous things without batting an eye. Previously, she broke a necklace that was very dear to me right in front of my eyes. That necklace was a precious memento from my deceased mother. Such a beautiful necklace, let me see it, she said as she forcibly took it from my hand and, claiming her hand slipped, tore the delicate chain. As I cried over my broken necklace, she coldly said this.
I'm sorry, it wasn't on purpose. But clinging to such a memento forever would only disappoint your mother in heaven.
At that moment, I realized I would never understand her. She had done such cruel acts without remorse in the past. So, her demolishing the house didn't surprise me. She probably wanted to see me distressed from the demolition for her twisted pleasure. It seems like making my life miserable was her source of joy. In other words, she was a pitiable person with nothing else to live for. Even after revealing the shocking truth, she seemed unyielding.
What? You two divorced? Did you force a divorce on your critically ill son? How could you commit such a heartless act? I'll demand alimony. If you don't want that, just do as I say. There was a reason we had to divorce.
Her eyes widened in anger as she confronted me.
A reason you had to divorce, huh? It must be a good one. Go ahead and say it if you can.
Spitting in her fury, she screamed at me, and I frowned, stepping back from her. Then, I revealed another fact.
John, your son, was having an affair. What? An affair?
Apparently, this was too unexpected for her, as her body trembled slightly. John had been coming home late for years. He claimed it was because he was busy at work, but that was a complete lie. He had been staying out late to meet his mistress. I suspected the affair when he came home late 3 days in a row. Women's intuition is sharp, I was amazed. How just a slight change in behavior could reveal he was hiding something. The definitive evidence was when he left his phone on the living room table instead of taking it to the bathroom. I saw a message from his mistress saying, "Last night was fun. Let's go to that hotel again." The moment I saw that message, I realized, he really was having an affair. I had been aware of John's infidelity for some time and accepted the fact without much surprise. By then, my love for John had nearly vanished. What did it matter what someone I didn't love anymore did? I didn't need to be shocked. However, we were still married. He had to pay for betraying his wife. I acted quickly from there. I used my savings to hire a private investigator. Once I had gathered solid evidence of the affair, I took it to a lawyer and filed for divorce. The divorce was finalized a month before John passed away. I was ready to pack up and leave right after, but then John collapsed. There was no love or affection left between us, we were practically strangers. But I couldn't just leave a person suffering right in front of me. I'm not that cruel. John begged me with tears to stay until the end, and so I ended up taking care of him till his last moment. But when I say I took care of him, it was only the bare minimum. I didn't offer comforting words, I was merely there, handling his needs in a businesslike manner. John tried to cling to me out of fear as the disease ravaged his body, but I ignored him and treated him indifferently. Even after John passed away, I had no intention of ever forgiving his infidelity. But John was not in a position to pay alimony in his condition. However,
I was demanding alimony from John, but since he passed away, I can no longer claim it from him. So, I decided to claim it from you two instead. Please make sure you pay. What? Why do we have to pay?
My mother-in-law's eyes bulged with rage at the mention of alimony. She seemed more shocked by the alimony claim than the fact that her son had been unfaithful. It seems she adored her only son, but she loves herself more. Disgusted, I sighed and explained to her.
In cases where the responsible party has passed away, the family can be held accountable. It's understandable that you're not aware of this. However, this has been confirmed by my lawyer. A lawyer? You, unemployed, can't afford a lawyer. Did you steal money from John's savings? You thief! Give back my son's money.
I felt dizzy with her absurd accusations. She has always been unreasonable, but she's gotten worse over the years. But if I give in now, it would only lead to more problems later. I sighed for what felt like the umpteenth time, faced her, and slowly said,
I'm sorry to say this, but I earn more than John did. What nonsense! Have you gone mad?
She snorted with disbelief. I resisted the urge to retort, who's the one who's really gone mad here? Then, I rummaged through my bag and thrust a document at her.
This is the payment statement from one of my clients. I have contracts with several other companies, so my annual income is higher than this.
She looked from the paper to my face. Her eyes nearly popped out in disbelief as she flipped back and forth between the two. She seems unable to believe that the amount written there is real. Despite my repeated explanations, she seemed to have completely forgotten about my job. I'm a freelance programmer and make quite a good income. I worked for a fairly large company after graduating from college. While there, I built up experience and contacts, then moved to freelance work. Before marrying John, he had said, I want you to focus on our home, so quit your job. We'll probably have kids eventually. But since his single income wasn't enough for a decent life, I kept working. Now, I truly believe it was a good thing I didn't just go along with what John said back then. Up until now, I had to cover the living expenses for both John and myself, but with just me, I'll have more money to spend freely, so I can live a bit more luxuriously than before. It was fortunate that I kept the payment statement with me. Before going back to my parents' house, as urged by her, I noticed the payment statement from a client in the mailbox and thought it would be unsafe to leave it there, so I tucked it into my bag. I never imagined that when I returned, not only would security be the least of my concerns, but the house itself would be gone.
You're supposed to be unemployed.
She's still in denial. I bluntly presented her with the facts. The demolition of the house was unexpected, but it's not a problem. After divorcing John, I had already signed a lease for an apartment, so I was planning to let go of this house anyway. It actually saved me the trouble. What concerns me is what happened to my belongings, but well, she surely hasn't thrown everything away. She, refusing to admit defeat, pointed a trembling finger at me.
It's because you didn't have children quickly that my son ended up like this.
Really? You still want to blame me?
If there had been children, my son would have taken better care of his health and lived longer. It's your fault for being infertile that my son died. You should pay for your responsibility.
Her ridiculously selfish reasoning made me burst into laughter. Then, I picked a particular image from my phone's gallery and showed it to her.
This is the conversation between your son and his mistress. Let me read you the message John sent. Turns out I might not be able to have kids. Got tested after my wife kept nagging, and the doc said so. So I guess, free rein to cheat. It was your son who was infertile, not me.
Before marrying, I had a bridal check and was diagnosed with no issues. Unlike John, I didn't lead an unhealthy lifestyle and was in good health. I could have become pregnant any time if I had wished.
Do you understand now? The problem was not with me, but with your son. That's a lie. That can't be. It doesn't matter if you don't believe me. My lawyer will be in touch soon. You might not believe my words, but you'll believe a lawyer's, right?
At this moment, I gave her a smile. This smile was my revenge for all the times she had her way with me. From now on, you won't have your way anymore, and you will take full responsibility, was the message I conveyed with my full smile. Whether she got the message or not, she turned pale and collapsed weakly on the spot. After leaving her there, I headed to my new apartment. I already had the keys, and the furniture was all set up, so there would be no issue with living there. And a few days later, it seems my lawyer had contacted my in-laws. Initially, they refused the lawyer's demands, saying, "That's impossible," but when faced with the prospect of going to court, they complied without further argument. As a result, I received alimony payments from my in-laws. The in-laws tried to sell the land where our house once stood, but due to its inconvenient location, it seems they're having trouble finding a buyer. They could probably sell it if they lowered the price, but they've apparently used a significant portion of their retirement savings to pay me alimony, so they can't afford to lower it. My father-in-law, already retired, had to return to work by registering with a senior employment agency because they're struggling financially. But it seems his earnings are too low to help with their living expenses. My mother-in-law, having been a housewife with no work experience, is struggling to find employment. Because of her selfish nature, it's unlikely she'd last long anywhere. Driven by desperation, I heard she's been gathering water from a public park and picking wild plants to stave off hunger. Eating plants picked from the roadside is risky, she might accidentally consume something poisonous. But as they are now strangers to me, whatever happens to them due to their own actions is not my concern. If my in-laws had been kinder to me, or had helped me after John passed away, I might have considered the what-ifs, but reality was far from that. Whatever happens to them now is their own doing. That's a direct result of their past actions. So there's no need for my sympathy. By the way, my belongings were stored by my mother-in-law in a rental warehouse. I thought she might have taken anything valuable, but perhaps she realized she couldn't afford to mess with someone who could hire a lawyer. I was able to recover all my belongings safely. After the alimony payments, she contacted me once, help, but I ignored her and proceeded to cancel my phone contract. Only my family, work colleagues, and close friends know my new number. My new apartment is in a completely different location from where we used to live, so it's impossible for my elderly in-laws to find me. Just to be safe, I chose a new place with excellent security. If my mother-in-law does find me, security will immediately be alerted. It would just increase my hassle, so I'm hoping that won't be necessary. Right now, I am living a life of smooth sailing. Free from John's care and my mother-in-law's nagging and harassment, my life is stress-free. The only challenging aspect is my busy work schedule. Since I have more personal time, I've taken on more work, maybe a bit too much. But it's led to high recognition in my job, and it looks like busy days will continue. However, I manage to refresh myself adequately as I can meet up with close friends on weekends. At this age, many of my friends are also free from parenting duties, so it's easier to find time to catch up. Life after marrying John was filled with unpleasantness as I aged. I was scared of becoming more unhappy as I got older, but now, I'm not afraid of anything. I am free now, able to go anywhere. I believe I will continue to live smilingly today and tomorrow. Living a life where I can keep smiling until the last moment is my goal now. My name is Natalie Thompson, and I'm 46 years old. I'm a married working mom, 16 years into marriage. I live with my husband, our 15-year-old daughter Lisa, and my in-laws, making us a family of 5. We might seem like a happy family, but an event led to our dispersion. What is this? What are you trying to do? The trigger was a divorce paper that my husband Michael presented to me when he came home. Michael, who handed me the filled-out divorce form, dropped a bombshell. My mistress is pregnant. I want to marry her, so I want a divorce from you.
Are you kidding?
This is no joke. I met her about a year ago, and now she's pregnant with my child. She's just 21 and a part-time employee. It would be cruel to make her have the baby alone, wouldn't it? So, I'm gonna take responsibility and marry her. You just need to sign this divorce paper and submit it to the city hall.
Just submit it to the city hall. You do realize you're married, right?
I know, that's why I brought the divorce paper. It's not about that. I have no clue what you're trying to say.
What about Lisa? Do you not care about her at all?
I never said I don't care. But Lisa is already 15. She's not at an age where she'll miss having a dad around. Besides, she's been quite distant lately, maybe it's her rebellious phase, but she avoids me and barely talks. Maybe it's better for her if I'm not around. I'll give you Lisa's custody.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious. I'm planning to divorce you as soon as possible. I won't change my mind. My husband said this without any remorse. At that moment, I lost all affection for him and accepted the divorce. However, he then said something even more unbelievable. Then, even after we divorce, I'll need you to take care of my parents.
What did you say?
I mean, I'm entrusting the care of my parents to you. 5 years ago, when my father-in-law hurt his back, we started living with my in-laws. Initially, it was agreed that I would take care of them, but once we started living together, Michael hardly contributed to their care, leaving everything to me. Moreover, my in-laws said, "Our son is busy with work, so you should do it. Even though you work, it's not like a woman's job is that significant." That's what he had the nerve to say. Yet, despite that, my husband Michael says I should take care of them even after we divorce. I naturally opposed this fiercely.
No joke. Why should I take care of your parents after we get divorced?
Why can you only say such cold things? Family is still family, even after divorce. Haven't you received a lot of help from my parents over the years? Don't you think about repaying that kindness? What are you talking about? It makes no sense. Perhaps hearing our conversation, my in-laws came into the living room from another room.
Mother-in-law, please listen.
I heard the conversation. There's going to be a child, right? Then, it can't be helped. Natalie will take care of us, so Michael, you stay by your new wife and child's side.
What?
We'll be fine as long as Natalie and Lisa are here to look after us, right? We just need you to show us the child's face from time to time.
Wait, are you serious?
What's wrong, Natalie?
Why are you assuming it's natural for us to take care of you even after the divorce?
Well, aren't we family? Helping each other is what families do, right?
Family. He's betraying our family, cheating with a younger woman, and you talk about family?
My in-laws didn't seem to understand what I was saying at all. Ever since we got married, they've always sided with my husband. My opinion hardly mattered. That's when it happened.
I'm home.
Our daughter Lisa, who had been at a study session, returned home. Entering the living room, she seemed surprised by the odd atmosphere. What's going on? Did something happen? Well, your dad and I are going to get divorced.
What?
Your dad is going to marry a new woman. She's pregnant with his child. So he has to take responsibility.
Wait, what are you saying? Are you serious?
OWEL, like mother, like daughter. You have the exact same reaction as your mom. I'm sorry, but I don't love your mom anymore. It might be hard without me, but I hope you can forgive me.
Forgive you? I don't understand. What's going to happen now?
It's nothing complicated. You just need to stay here with your mom and take care of grandma and grandpa, just like before.
Wait, you're getting a divorce, right? So why should mom and I take care of the two of you?
I'm a man, and I have no clue about caregiving. It's better if you and mom handle it. Grandpa and grandma will be happier that way. Is that okay with you, mom?
I am.
Thank you so much for helping without expecting anything in return. We're relieved to have you and Lisa around. Michael needs to protect his new wife and child, so don't worry about us and just live happily. In front of our daughter, who was rightfully questioning, they spoke as if it was all settled. However, they didn't know that their world would turn upside down with my next statement. As I said before, I have no intention of taking care of you too. And I certainly won't make Lisa do it either. Why are you being so stubborn? Yes, Lisa is our granddaughter, right? What's wrong with a granddaughter taking care of her grandparents? Even if you're divorced, a granddaughter is still a granddaughter. And you, as her mother, have a duty to take care of us. Isn't it too cold to say that it's over just because of the divorce?
Why should I take care of Michael's parents, who will be strangers to me after the divorce?
That's because you seem to be under some misconception. If we're getting divorced, you two will naturally have to move out of this house.
What? Why do we have to leave this house?
This house was bought by our son, right? Natalie, you have no right to kick us out. Yes, I do.
Because this house is mine, I bought it.
What? Right, dear? That's, well.
What do you mean? Isn't this the house you bought? You said you bought a big house for the family when you got promoted.
That was all a lie. A lie. Do you in-laws even know how much he earns?
Hey, you don't have to go that far.
If I hadn't spoken up, we wouldn't be in this situation. We've come this far, it's better to tell everything. What are you talking about? What do you mean? Simply put, he earns less than I do. He doesn't make enough to afford such a large house.
What?
His company is a subcontractor for the company I work for. Didn't I tell you? We met through work. He came to sell something to my office, and I was drawn to his dedication. But I never imagined that, 16 years into our marriage, he'd come and tell me he wants a divorce because he got a younger woman pregnant.
What? Is that story true?
Well, that's. I'll add that since he moved in, he hasn't contributed to the household expenses at all. From utilities to groceries, I've been paying for everything, including your living expenses. That can't be.
We were giving our son part of our pension as living expenses, weren't we? Weren't you getting that from your son?
Didn't I tell you? I never received any money from him for living expenses. Then where did our pensions go? Who knows? Maybe he's been supporting his mistress with it? What? The nerve of him to ask me to keep looking after you two after the divorce, not because he's staying in the house he bought, but in the house I bought with my earnings. How can he say that with a straight face? After hearing my story, the three of them fell silent. After thinking for a bit, my father-in-law asked my husband, "Why did you lie about buying the house when it was Natalie who bought it? You told us you bought it for the family, that you were providing for us. Yes, you said since it's your house, there's no need to hold back. We thought that's why you invited us to live with you." Well, Hey, you're being asked a question. Can't answer for yourself? Then let me. It seems he felt inferior because he earns less than his wife. He was too embarrassed, so he begged me to pretend he bought the house. There's no rule that men have to earn more than women, or that the breadwinner has to be the man. But I can somewhat understand his desire. So, as he wished, I kept it secret that I bought the house, and we've been pretending it's his. He must have forgotten about it since he asked me to take care of his parents in this house. And the unknowing in-laws believed their son's words. That's the situation. Even now, do you still expect me to take care of you?
I'll say it again, this is my house that I bought. I have the right to decide who lives here. I've been patient until now, but from today, this house is only for Lisa and me. So, the three of you, please pack your things and leave my house immediately.
I was surprised myself at how fluently the words came out. I guess all my pent-up feelings had exploded. Then, the in-laws suddenly prostrated before me. They must have panicked realizing they were being kicked out.
We had no idea it would come to this. We've caused so much trouble, and we're truly sorry. But if Natalie kicks us out, we have nowhere to go. Our parents are gone, and we have no family home to return to. Our siblings live far in the countryside. With my bad leg, I can't live in such a remote place. Please, let us stay here. I'm so sorry for not understanding Natalie's feelings and pushing everything onto her. I must have been the worst mother-in-law. But now that I know the situation, I'll change my heart and help Natalie. I'll do whatever you ask, just let us stay here. I don't want to be separated from Lisa.
The two of them were sobbing and apologizing to me. How absurd. They weren't blaming my husband, the root cause of this mess, but still trying to rely on me. They just don't get it. Just as I was about to speak up, Lisa interjected.
Grandpa, Grandma, you really don't get it, do you? After hearing everything, why are you still trying to get Mom to take care of you? Normally, you'd be blaming Dad for causing this, right? A child shouldn't be speaking like that. Go to your room. Why should I? You were planning to make me help with taking care of you, right? Then I'm involved. Saying that it's a grandchild's job to look after grandparents, but now telling me to keep out because I'm just a child? Can you stop flipping between treating me as an adult or a child based on what suits you? How cheeky! If you have nowhere to go, why not go to Dad's place? After the divorce, he's going to live with his mistress, right? If you have nowhere to go, you should go there. You both said it, right? It's the job of grandchildren and daughters-in-law to take care of you. Mom won't be a daughter-in-law anymore, so why not rely on the new one? I'm still a grandchild even if my parents are divorced, but there's going to be a new grandchild on that side, so no problem, right?
Lisa's rebuttal left them speechless. The in-laws looked at each other in surprise. However, my husband, thinking he'd have to take in his parents, was furious at Lisa's words. What are you talking about? How did this conversation even get here? I need to protect my new wife and child. I don't have time to care for Mom and Dad too. But you told me not to say cold things. A son connected by blood saying such things? That's not what I mean. It's just impossible right now. If it'll be okay later, then living together now doesn't make a difference. Exactly. Plus, if a baby is coming, it's better to have more people around. It could be a win-win situation. Then, after hearing our conversation, the in-laws seemed to change their minds, suddenly saying, actually, that might be a better idea. What? Are you seriously considering coming? It's unrealistic to rely on Natalie forever. If there's a new wife, it would be better to depend on her. And thinking about it, Natalie's right. If a child is coming, more hands are needed. Especially since you'll be working hard for your family, right? Then it's better if she and we take care of the child. We have to help out. Hey, wait a minute, both of you. The three of them, leaving us behind, had a mini-family argument. In the end, it seemed my husband gave in and decided to take his parents to his mistress's house. The in-laws, having secured a new place to rely on, happily packed their bags and left with my deeply sighing husband. However, unbelievably, within 3 hours, the trio returned.
What's the meaning of this? Returning home less than 3 hours after you left?
Well, actually. My husband, with a pale face, responded to my inquiry. She kicked us out. What?
That's right, she kicked us out.
After leaving our house, he took his parents to his mistress's place. I heard about your situation from your son. You've been through a lot. But don't worry anymore. We're here to help.
Wait, what do you mean?
Sorry for showing up unannounced. It's a long story, but for now, can we come in?
I can't let you in, can I?
What?
Why should I let you in?
But we're going to get married.
Married?
I've been pretending not to know, but you're pregnant with my child, aren't you? That's why I handed the divorce papers to my wife and left the house.
What have you been saying?
I saw it, the used pregnancy test, in your bathroom. I checked online, and if both lines are there, it means you're pregnant. You must have left it there to tell me later, right? I'm sorry for looking without permission. But if you leave something like that out in the open, I'll notice it. You've been turning down meals recently because you weren't feeling well, right? That's what's going on, isn't it? You don't have to hide anything anymore. I want you to feel safe to have my child now that we'll be here for you. Then she said to him,
Are you an idiot? Yes, I'm pregnant, but this child isn't yours.
It's not my child. What are you saying, then whose child is it? It's my boyfriend's, obviously. Boyfriend. But that's not me.
Do you really think you're my boyfriend? Did you honestly believe that all this time?
But we've been involved for a year since we met.
Of course not. Where did we meet, remember?
That's right, we met through a sugar daddy app, but that was just at the beginning. You gave me your home address, and we went out together many times. We were in a relationship.
That's ridiculous. I never promised to marry you, and we were never officially together. You've misunderstood everything and brought your parents here. What were you thinking?
What? Yes, the woman he thought he was dating was someone he met on a sugar daddy app.
A misunderstanding? I handed my wife the divorce papers and left my 15-year-old daughter to come here. What am I supposed to do now that you're saying this?
That's not my problem, is it? You're the one who misunderstood. What are you talking about? That's creepy.
Creepy?
Michael, what is going on? Sugar daddy, what's that? Well, that's... Oh, let me explain in a way that even your parents can understand. I was just being paid to hang out with him. We're not lovers or anything, so could you please leave? What? Such a thing.
Don't mess with me. I bought you everything you wanted, and I gave you so much money, only for you to repay me like this.
Repay you like this? You signed up for the sugar daddy app yourself, right? After all that money you spent, how can you even say such a thing? Isn't that strange? I don't want to be called weird by someone who's doing sugar dating while having a boyfriend. I don't care if you think I'm weird. I was doing sugar dating to save up for my wedding with my boyfriend. I was planning to stop soon anyway. Our relationship was about to end, so this is actually perfect timing. Perfect timing. Did you really think a 50-year-old married man with children could seriously get involved with a 21-year-old woman? I thought you were using a sugar daddy app because you understood your place. I never imagined you would leave your family thinking we were in a relationship. It's just pitiful. My condolences. Make sure not to make such creepy misunderstandings next time. Well, if there is a next time. She seemed to mock him with those words. He got furious at her words.
Enough with making a fool out of me.
Just as he was about to lash out at her. What?
Who are you?
A strong-looking young man appeared from the back of the room and grabbed his hand. This man was her real boyfriend. Immediately she exclaimed,
"This man is my stalker. He's mistaken that I'm pregnant with his child and even brought his parents here. When I denied it, he suddenly tried to hit me. Please help me." "Old man, don't you dare mess with my wife. You've got some nerve trying to hit her." "It's not like that. Listen, don't you ever show your face around us again. If I see you one more time, you won't get off so easily." "Geez. Michael, maybe it's best we go home." "Yeah, let's go back."
"Damn it." And so, the three of them were chased away by the couple and returned to our house.
"That damn brat. I won't forgive her. I'll sue her for fraud."
What? Let's discuss what's going to happen next. Right. Even if we need to hire a lawyer, we first have to talk. Saying that, they tried to enter the house as if it were a given. Wait a minute, why are you trying to come into the house? Why? Because we need to have a discussion, don't we? I don't have anything to discuss with you. We were deceived by that woman. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't be in this mess. You're involved in this too. The divorce paper is void. First, we need to talk about suing her. What are you talking about?
I've already submitted the divorce papers to the office.
What? Why would you? You told me to.
You said to sign the divorce papers quickly and take them to the office. You wanted a divorce as soon as possible, so as you wished, I submitted them right after you all left.
We're now complete strangers.
If you enter my house without my permission, that's breaking and entering. I'll have to call the police.
You!
What are you doing? I don't accept this. We need to talk.
My ex-husband tried to forcefully enter the house. The in-laws, tired of being dragged around, said, "Just let us in, we're too tired to walk any further. Let's talk inside. We can think about what to do next after that." As they were trying to come in. Then, hello? Police? There are people trying to force their way into my house. They're all strangers to me. Please come quickly. My daughter, likely having heard our conversation from inside, was speaking on her smartphone while heading to the entrance.
What? The police?
You heard it, right? We're strangers now.
If strangers try to enter someone's house, of course, you call the police. Even a child knows that. But calling the police, isn't that an overreaction? Do you want us to get arrested?
Why not? We're strangers after all.
All you talk about is strangers. Don't you have anything else to say? It's your fault that it's come to this.
Excuse me?
It's because you were too busy with parenting and caregiving and didn't pay attention to me. That's why I ended up using that sugar daddy app. Hey, don't blame me, okay? This is all your fault. Whether it's parenting or caregiving, you've always treated it as someone else's problem. Despite it all being related to you, you pushed everything onto me. You've always acted like you were still single. That's why we're in this situation.
All right, I apologize. Let's start over. You, me, Lisa, and your parents, the five of us, working together, can start afresh.
It's all too late now. No matter what you say, I have no intention of starting over with you.
Besides, is this really the time to be having this conversation? What? Aren't the police, Lisa, going to arrive soon? Once the police get here, the neighbors will likely come to see what's happening. Are you okay with becoming the talk of the neighborhood after being rejected by the woman you thought was your mistress and then crawling back here? With that, the three of them started to fidget and hurriedly left. Really?
Mom, are you okay? I'm fine. But calling the police, wasn't that a bit much? I'll have to apologize when the officers arrive.
Don't worry, the police aren't coming. What? I just pretended to call the police. I figured they would run off if I did that. Lisa. I mean, this is our home, right? We don't want them to come back again. I hugged my daughter tightly as she said this with a smile. Months have passed since then, and they never appeared before us again. Afterward, I wondered where they went without a place to stay. It seems they couldn't figure out what to do next, and ended up renting a small apartment together as a trio. And why do I know this? Well,
What is this? A demand for alimony and child support? Why is this being sent to my place?
I had a lawyer track down his whereabouts to demand alimony for his affair and child support for our daughter. Initially, he refused to pay, but that wasn't going to fly. He would have to take responsibility for his actions and pay up. According to what I heard, life wasn't as easy for the three of them as they had thought.
Hey, Mom. Didn't I tell you to do the laundry and clean up before I got back? What are you talking about? You said you would do it. I was busy taking care of Dad. How could I possibly do that? There's no need to talk like it's a bother. I didn't hurt my back on purpose.
I heard rumors that they were struggling with all the responsibilities I had been handling falling on them at once. They must be realizing now how much they took me for granted. Meanwhile, my daughter and I continue to live in that house, just the two of us. She successfully got into the high school she wanted. Even without them, we're managing just fine. However, even though my daughter shows me smiles, she might be grieving the loss of her father and grandparents inside. With that thought, I asked her, "I'm sorry, because of me, you can't live with your dad, grandpa, and grandma anymore. Are you okay? Are you not struggling?" Then my daughter looked at me, bewildered, and answered,
What are you talking about? Why would I struggle? I'm fine as long as I have you, Mom. Actually, I should be the one apologizing.
Huh? I'm sorry I couldn't help you when you were going through tough times. From now on, I'll be there to support you, so don't worry. My daughter, who I thought was just a little girl, reassured me with her strong words. Just those words alone make me feel like I can face whatever comes our way.
I resolved once again to protect her with all my might until the day she leaves